Where are you abiding these days? Yeah, I know. In our homes. But really, where are you abiding? In my sweatpants? In my kitchen for 3 flaming meals a day, and do not get used to it. In Zoom screens. And if I have to have one more meeting there, things are going to be said. Where are you abiding? In a vague no man's land between back then, when so many things were normal, I didn't call them normal, I just called them life, and a future that's so hazy I can't imagine it at the moment. I'm abiding in a hand-cracking fog of cleaning. I'm abiding in a sea of worry for my neighbors, for the folks in the nursing home, for my job and financial prospects. I'm abiding in a half-remembered tour of isosceles triangles as I help my kid keep up with her schoolwork. I'm abiding in an unending series of walks with the dog, our time at home being merely an extended pause between tours of the neighborhood and beyond. For the Gospel of John, where today's reading comes from, believing in Jesus wasn't about agreeing to a list of ideas. Believing in Jesus means you are abiding in Jesus. Believing in Jesus means you are living inside the relationship you have with Jesus. Believing in Jesus means your whole life, 3 meals a day, Zoom meetings, walks with the dog, cleaning, worrying, all of those activities are anchored in your relationship with Jesus. Now, in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Jesus goes to Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, and almost immediately we hear of the Last Supper and his trial and crucifixion. In the Gospel of John, he goes to Jerusalem, and then there are chapters and chapters of his teaching before we hear stories of Jesus' last week. So it is easy to forget that after Jesus announced he would go to Jerusalem, Thomas said, let us also go, that we may die with him. Like the others who had given up normal lives to follow Jesus, Thomas had a deep relationship with Jesus. Thomas had left behind so much in order to abide with Jesus. In becoming a disciple of Jesus, by building his whole life around that relationship, Thomas has experienced what it means to live with the reality that the reign of God is at hand, that reality must shape the teaching, healing, and confrontations for justice that flow from it. Thomas isn't surprised by the cross. There's no way you can abide in the reign of God being at hand and not expect the cross. You're just too dangerous for the powers and principalities of this world. Thomas's relationship with Jesus has him not only expecting the cross, but embracing it as a reality that will end his own life. That's where Thomas is abiding. When Thomas hears about Jesus standing among the other disciples behind the locked door, I don't think he's asking for anything special or anything more special than what they experienced. I mean, the cross he expected. But when the dead won't even stay dead, what can you count on in this world? So sure, the appearance of Jesus takes a little processing. But way more importantly, Thomas had a relationship with Jesus, who lived his life proclaiming that the reign of God was at hand and that we needed to start living that way. We needed to start acting like we loved God and we loved our neighbors. We needed to start to act in ways that the political and religious authorities were definitely not going to be happy with. Thomas needs to know that the man who appeared in their midst on that Easter Sunday was really, truly the man they had followed to Jerusalem. Because the power of the resurrection comes from the reality that actions you took in life because of your relationship with Jesus continue on the other side of death. Thomas has to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that abiding in Jesus in life creates the reality that he will abide in Jesus after death. That nothing, not even death itself, can sever that relationship. That matters to me too. I know there are 2,000 years between Thomas and us. But if the same guy who was only too human, who wept, who ate with outsiders, who made sure there was plenty of wine at a wedding, isn't the same guy who offers peace on Easter evening, then I doubt I abide in my relationship with Jesus, with that guy, as deeply. I mean, for instance, I know enough about cars to not be bamboozled when I take my car to the dealership. I also know enough about cars to ask someone who's a real expert. I don't need to know why they answer my question the way they do, because I know they have dug into it far more deeply than I ever will. And that is good enough. So when Thomas says, 1, unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands and put my finger into the mark of the nails and my hand into his side, I will not believe. And 2, my Lord and my God. I'm grateful. Thomas is worried about the same things I'm worried about. Does my relationship with Jesus survive death? And he gets his answer. I don't need to know if he actually saw or touched. He got his answer. And I can rely on his answer for mine. When Thomas says, my Lord and my God, he's reclaiming, returning to the relationship he has with Jesus. In the Gospel of John, sin is failing to have a relationship with God through Jesus. In the Gospel of John, being a witness doesn't mean knowing something. It means living your life so that others get drawn into a relationship with God through your actions. So when Jesus assures his disciples, if you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven. If you retain the sins of any, they are retained. He's basically saying, as witnesses, we need to forgive others. And they need to live their lives so that others are brought into relationship with God. So let me ask, where are you abiding? Are you forgiving others? Are you living so that others can come into relationship with God? I know I can get caught up in tending to relationships with others to such an extent that I neglect to tend my relationship with God. And once that begins to languish, there's no amount of living I can do that can help others come into relationship with God. So wherever you're abiding these days, take some time to figure out how you can say, my Lord and my God, how you can emphasize your relationship with the reign of God in this world. Because that is beyond doubt part of living to the reality of the resurrection. Hallelujah.